Hey everybody, and welcome to the October update. What happens during these updates is I usually talk about things that caught my eye during the month of October. Um, Simply because, I think gaming is part of the hobby, painting is part of the hobby, but also talking about the hobby is part of the hobby. I know a lot of folks who sit around and uh, spend a lot of time while painting together, right? Talking about the hobby, what's coming, what's not. In fact, usually, if you're in a group of miniature gamers, you probably get WhatsApp messages and like links to different like news, right? So what I attempt to do here is to attempt to compile everything into what I thought was interesting. Now, if I missed anything, it's either I didn't find it interesting or I didn't know what was happening. If you like, you can actually let me know in the comments. If I've missed anything, or if there's something happening in November which I should have a look at. Right. So let's kick everything off with one of the bigger announcements in the month of October, and that's the launch of Conflict 47. Now, if you do not know, Conflict 47 actually is a reboot. They actually had an initial version of Conflict 47, right? And what they've done now is they've actually retooled and redone Conflict 47 for this new edition, right? And I think just having a look at the rules, it's exciting and it's new, right? They actually is free PDF for the rules to for you to like try out. So the link to that PDF is in the description. Now, what I liked about Conflict 47 is not only the fact that uh it it's a new game out there, sort of, but the fact they've got a certain mechanics which I thought was kind of cool. Now, what is Conflict 47? Conflict 47, think of it as a parallel timeline where whatever has happened uh here in this timeline didn't happen the way it did in that timeline, and this whole game takes place in that timeline. So it's pretty much grounded in in what we know happened and what we know, the tech that we understand, right? I think that's one of the strengths of the game, the fact that you know what it is, right? And it generally is one of those times when if let's just say there's a Churchill with an addition thing, it's a Churchill, right? It's not something you have to learn up and read up and stuff like that. But that's just me overstepping myself before doing it one bit at a time, right? So one bit at a time basically is it's basically parallel history. And why is it kind of cool? It's got this thing where now they've got this thing called this dice, this rift dice, which I thought was a very very cool mechanic. This rift dice actually adds a dimension to the game. It gives a lot of the units an extra level of play to play. I thought that was kind of cool. So I added that to the bolt action dice activation. Makes the game quite cool, quite interesting. They've also released a whole bunch of plastic figures as well for the set, and each army looks uniquely enough that if you didn't like the Americans, you might like the British. If you like the British, you like the German, so on and so forth. Now, how well it will do, I'm not so sure, because I've actually asked um groups here in Malaysia who are playing bolt action whether they'd be keen on Conflict 47. They replied, but I'm not so sure whether I want to do a video for it. Now, if you're interested to know what I think of Conflict 47, in its effect here in Malaysia, just leave me a comment and I'll put that video together. Why did I do that? Is because I was kind of curious because initially Conflict 47 was a bolt action with something extra, right? And most of these groups actually have bolt action armies. So adding something extra to your game to play another game sort of makes sense. But again, I asked around. I've gotten some feedback. Now, if you're curious to know what the feedback was, send me send me write me a comment and I'll get to it. So yeah, so that's Conflict 47. So next up is Mantic Games, and Mantic Games have just released their new faction, and it's called Xerhaali, which I thought it's a nice name. Xerhaali is a very nice name, um, and what it is, it looks like it's a Gnoll army or Dogman army, but it's also Oriental inspired. Now, I'm not so sure whether it's the zeitgeist or whether it is just coincidence, but there seems to be a lot of Oriental based armies coming out, right? So Yoroni were just released for Conquest, and then you have, Warhammer releasing their Oriental faction, and now we have this faction, right? Each of them, luckily, each of them look uniquely enough, right? But for the Xerhaali, what I thought was kind of interesting is they've got the imagery more or less down. It looks like it's a 10th century maybe samurai with like a lot of troops with ashigaru kind of armor, and then they have dragons, flightless dragons, which are kind of nice, and it's posed with a bonsai tree, which I thought was very very cool. And then you have the cavalry, and they're riding on lions. The imagery is very very nice, very very strong. How popular the army will be, I'm not so sure, but it looks very nice. It looks exciting, and it's slotted to be released soonish. So right, when I had a look at the pictures of the army, right, I thought, yep, that's very very inspiring. That's very exciting, right? And that's what you want when you're releasing a new faction, for it to be interesting and exciting. Next up, we have news from North Starfighters, and this is the Frostgrave Cultist 3. It's actually, it's quite kind of amazing that they actually have a third set of cultists, which I thought was kind of cool. Why? Because it basically puts everything into sort of perspective, where how popular the cultist sets are. Which I mean, it's no surprise. We've sold quite a number of cultist sets here. But this set, although it's a third spin on an already established kit, right? Has a good amount of options, good amount of hits, good amount of bits, and if you're the kit bashing type, right, this is just more to your arsenal. And the fact that it's the third in the series is very very exciting, because now that there's even more compatibility of the bits. I was talking to one of my customers recently, and he did mention that the different plastic miniatures have sort of slightly different dimensions, although they're all about the same scale, but there's slightly different dimensions. So sometimes he'll put on I can't name any offhand, but sometimes you'll have torsos are slightly largish, with the arms which are slightly small if they're from different manufacturers. So this third set will add your bits box without having to worry too much about having having compatibility issues when it comes to putting together your kit bashing kits. So consider this as another addition to your bits box. Next up, I want to talk about Space Battles, and Space Battles is basically a Rick Priestley game. Now when I was doing researching researching for the video Void Fighter rulebook, the Void Fighter rulebook video, I came across Space Battles. Right, it's been out for quite a while. I did not know about it. This is basically a Rick Priestley rule set, and why it's kind of cool is because it runs on cards, right? So I thought that was really interesting. I'm more partial to looking at designers, the old school designers, not because of nostalgia, maybe a little bit of nostalgia, but I think the first generation of Games Workshop game designers that were coming out, and this was, I think, for me, the most prolific period in non-historical rule sets. People like Jervis and Rick Priestley, they were making games which were, I want to say, have unique mechanics. Why? Because they didn't have anything else as reference, perhaps using historical references to and mechanics for their games. And now the new generation of folks working at companies like Games Workshop, are basically using, are fans, right? Fans of the games, who grew up with these games, being inspired by these guys. So I'm always interested to see what the old guard are making, simply because they come from a different headspace when it comes to designing games. And for me, it's always very exciting to see what they've got. Now you can actually buy this rule book on Amazon, if I'm not mistaken, and I think you can get it from Rick Priestley direct. His company's called Wombat Wargames, I think, if I'm not mistaken. So go have a look. It feels like it's a game that you might want to try. It's miniature agnostic, so that's kind of cool. Next up, we have news from Archon Studio, and it's the Trench Crusade plastic box set. Um, Trench Crusade for the whole month of 2020, the whole year of 2025, the buzz was Trench Crusade. 2024 was ooh, what's this? 2025 was more like, when is it, right? When it comes to Trench Crusade. But there's a lot of heat, there's a lot of like excitement still when it comes to Trench Crusade. And it's nice to know that Archon Studios have just released the plastic block box set for the Prussians, right? In Trench Crusade. Which I thought was kind of cool. It looks very, very nice. It's got a few I think 6 figures, if I'm mistaken. And you can actually, there are different configurations that you can put them together. And this is, I think, one of the better releases. This is one of those boxes which you're surprised it came out, right? I mean, I was surprised it came out. I thought Trench Crusade, will take its time, but it's nice Arco Studios have actually jumped in, and they've actually helped out pushing the game forward, right? So yeah, so that's the Trench Crusade plastic box set, which, like I said, it's exciting that it's out, and kudos to Archon Studios for making it happen. Now, Spiel des Jahres just happened. It's Game of the Year, and the convention, and there were a couple of announcements which I thought was really, really exciting. Now, if you do not know, Archon Studios have the IP for the StarCraft game, and they showed off a lot of the sculpts at Spiel des Jahres, and this includes the Terrans, the Zergs, the Protoss. They showed how they got to incorporate their translucent plastics, into the kits. They've introduced, what the heroes are going to look like, what the troops are going to look like, and this has caused quite a buzz, because I think the current generation that's currently enjoying or getting to know war games with the money to buy it were brought up on StarCraft, and it's going to be a game based off a computer game. Now, here's my theory, and I think that if it was not for Dawn of War, Warhammer 40K won't be as big as it is right now. I know a lot of folks who played Dawn of War in the cyber cafes here in Malaysia, and immediately went out and bought the kits, and started playing, right? So I've got a good feeling about StarCraft having some success. I think mostly it will be based on nostalgia. Now, the big trick here is what's the system like, right? What is the rule set going to be like? And that's going to be quite important if you ask me, because when it all boils down to it, the system is very, very important. Whether it's going to be a little bit more simplistic, like Warhammer, or a little bit more complex, like Infinity. But see how it's more of like a squad based game. So I think it's gonna be a little bit more Warhammer. So this is something to look out for. That's apparently it's coming out next year. It's just that I was very, very excited to talk about it, because I saw the figures, and I had folks in my store sending me like links like, hey, did you check this out, and I had a look at the figures, and I was actually quite excited that they were out. So yeah, so that's it's something to look forward to 2026. Also at Spiel, they released the news that Blood Bowl is coming back, right? And okay, so I double checked, and this would probably be, if I'm not wrong, the fifth edition, third season. That's what I think what it is to me. Why? Because the game did extremely well. In fact, the most iconic version of the game is the third edition, and then fourth edition came out, and then they had the living rulebook, right? And I consider that whole period as the for fourth edition, and then when they rebooted the game with the orcs and humans, that was, I consider, fifth edition, and then they've had like a couple of seasons since, right? So now it's kind of cool that they've broken it down to seasons as well for this new edition, and this is how they're gonna release their new the new sets, right? There's a human set in this. If I think um, it's a human set and undead set, the Camry, but the figures look very nice as always. I think the variety of teams that you can collect that's within budget for Blood Bowl is more, right? So you can probably, collect about 10, uh, either historical or current Blood Bowl teams, and it won't bust your wallet, right? As opposed to collecting 10, fantasy armies and 40k armies and stuff like that. So it's a very nice game. It's easy to collect and it's easy to like, have. As for the presentation, the game has changed quite a bit since the third edition, the fourth edition, and stuff. In fact, the whole fifth edition has been something that's totally new, right? They actually have they release, sets with pictures. They have their own custom pictures and stuff like that, which I thought is very very cool. And the young me would have been totally all over this, but at the moment having a look at the figures, they look interesting, and I might have a look at picking them up. Actually, to be actually honest, I don't own any of the new edition, a new fifth edition, Blood Bowl teams. So yeah, maybe I'll go and have a look around, see if anybody's got a team they want to sell, and probably paint that one up. But we have featured quite a lot of like classic Blood Bowl teams on this channel. So we actually have had a whole playlist of teams that I feature. Some second edition humans, I think, I was taking some second edition halflings, and some third edition figures as well. Yeah, I think it's time to like start painting some Blood Bowl for fun. It's for me the best game that's ever come out of that company, Games Workshop, Warhammer, whatever they call now. It is tight. It is simple. Not as simple as it used to be. It's tight. It's got a great mechanic. It's one of the. It was. It's one of. I think if it was for me, I'd put Blood Bowl up there, and then followed by maybe Mordheim, right? So yeah. So that's just a personal opinion, right? So yeah, that's pretty much the news that I've got for you. Oh, and let's not forget, very very quick as well, that Dystopian Wars have a new edition coming out. Now here at the store, we used to play a lot of Dystopian Wars. We had a lot of multiplayer games and things happening. But this was the Dystopian Wars from the Spartan Games era of the game. Now under War Cradle, they've actually had a couple editions out now, and the boys in the store haven't cozied up to it yet. But I think with the new edition, apparently they've streamlined a lot of the rules, streamlined a lot of the rules, and they made things interesting to play. Maybe we'll have a surge of new players. I'm not so sure, but I must say though that each generation of Dystopian War figures look great. I mean, whether it's the Spartan Games, Dystopian Wars, or the War Cradle Dystopian Wars, they have nice looking figures, and I think it is interesting. It's just that I think for a lot of folks, starting a huge army now for Dystopian Wars, once they already have the old figures, huge armies of, might be a bit difficult. Actually, there's a group here in Malaysia that has a Dystopian War game once a year, and every time I join them and have a look at the game, it takes hours, man, like hours, and most of the time the game doesn't even end. It's the real games are really complex. So the fact that now, War Cradle have attempted to redo the game is kind of cool. It's kind of cool, and I'm looking forward to see the response to this, and maybe like restock a whole lot of like Dystopian Wars starter sets on the shelf. So that's pretty much it. October has been an interesting month. I think it's because it's the fourth quarter, it's towards the end of the year. Companies are lining up for Christmas, and announcing all these different sets and stuff like that. So yeah, um, I'm looking forward to see what's happening in November, because in November will be much much closer to Christmas, and a lot more different news, right? I mean, I didn't touch on Victrix announcing that they're repackaging some of their armies for pillage, right? So you're gonna have the Romans now from their line to pillage. That's also interesting news, and then the fact that even Infinity have got a new bundle coming out. But that'll probably be news for November. As for the channel, I'm so glad that there's a lot of folks who have taken the time to do comments. We've had more comments in October for almost all of our videos. Back even from back then, people have gone back and have a look and sent and left comments, and I totally appreciate that. It's it's equivalent to a tweet or an X, to respond to encourage me to do what I'm doing, right? So I thank you so much for those of you guys who have commented, and for those of you guys who've watched, because the watch has gone up as well. I thank you as well. Also, if you're listening to us if you're watching to us from another country with a different language, we have added options for subtitles in different languages. I just thought it'd be nice for you to know that we have that. So have a look at the videos over the last year or so, and see what the commentary looks like in Japanese or in Russian and stuff like that. Yeah, so that's pretty much it. Now, if you like what I'm doing, like and subscribe. If you feel like you want to do something more, you can always buy me a coffee. Links in the description. Most of what I talk about today, I'll try to put links in the description so you can actually access it as best as possible. So that's pretty much it. Okay, don't forget to like and subscribe. And as always, don't forget to enjoy painting those figures.